This is I Dare You with me, Francesca Escoto, your host, where professional women over 40 get the courage to embark on a new adventure. Hello, Priscilla Stephan. Thank you so much for being a guest in the I Dare You podcast. You are my first official interview, so I'm very excited and very pleased that you accepted the invitation. So thank you for joining me.
I am very honored. We're going to have fun.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Now, we have been in each other's worlds for probably a little over 10 years now.
Correct.
And I think we connected through our previous coach, Lisa Stedman.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I think that speaks to both our commitment to coaching, both as a profession and as a service that we would consume, but also to our continuing to work on our business, our purpose, and how we contribute to the world 10 years later, still doing the things that fulfill our purpose and that make us tick. So tell me more about what you're doing in your current project.
Yeah, so I've been a coach now for 14 years. And like you, I've gone through my own evolutions and changes. I started out as a health coach, helping women with emotional eating that really translated into helping them be in careers that actually lit them up because they were eating to compensate for the misalignments. And then I realized that what I was really meant to do was to help other purpose-driven entrepreneurs see their purpose. And my true gift is helping them to see the fullest expression of that gift, which is usually bigger than how they see it for themselves. No matter how big that vision is, it's either bigger or has more dimension to it than what they've envisioned. And so that is really one of the big powers that I have, is to help purpose-driven, soul-driven entrepreneurs and leaders to change the world through the vehicle of business. So that's been what I've been doing now for about 9 or so years. And there is a new iteration right here in the horizon. And this is the first podcast I'm actually talking about it, which is an elevation of the work that I've done. I've also channeled an entire body of work on leadership archetypes called the Soul Fluent Leadership Archetypes, and my business guide is behind me here. Yes. And so it's this next iteration is an elevation of my purpose, which my purpose is to really help others realize the fullest expression of their own purpose for the greater good. And so I've just recently developed, and I really haven't even spoken publicly about it, a new, very high level customized coaching program called Pinnacle Purpose that is for high net worth visionaries, founders, leaders who desire to channel the wealth and the influence that they have amassed through their success in business, whatever their industry was. They've reached the heights of that success. They've made really good money, right? They've amassed all this money and they've invested the money, they've given it to charity, and they find themselves in a very specific time of their lives asking, what's next? And what's next to the effect of, I feel compelled in my soul to make my own unique contribution that will change the game for humanity in terms of the level of impact that it makes. And I'm trying to figure out either what that is, and then how to distill that vision into a roadmap that is something that they can actually actualize. So we're talking legacy, we're talking fulfillment on a whole other level, we're talking personal development, we're talking about, wow, I've done all this stuff and that's been amazing, but I know there's more for me to create for humanity. So this isn't about just building a business. This isn't, let's start something new. It's going to be a very unique, energetic fingerprint that they're going to leave for humanity. Like, I call it their gift to humanity.
Yeah.
And so they have all these resources, and I partner with them to apply those resources for the greater good in a meaningful way, and usually an unprecedented level of impact. We're talking impact through and through.
Mhm.
And for each person, it's going to be a different, different thing, a different vision.
Yeah, I'm so excited by what you're saying for multiple reasons. I myself am a serial entrepreneur, right? And coaching is part of what I do. But I originally thought of this podcast as the social impact machine and really focusing on social impact as the core gift that business does for society, and
Right.
helping entrepreneurs who want to really make an impact through business. So we were like right there. I since then, and it's funny because you talked about expanding the vision is usually bigger than how you start and how you grow into your purpose. And so I realized that yes, social impact is the outcome. It can also be the intention. However, my gift to the world is helping people find the courage to do the thing, right? And so I want to be able to focus on that courage and helping people kind of make that transition. But I digress. One of the areas of my life and my professional life has been consulting with nonprofits and helping them get off the ground and launch and grow and go and pursue that bold vision,
Right.
that whatever their community or constituents, whatever those needs might be. And I'm currently Chief Operations Officer for a nonprofit in Miami. And one of the things that we keep talking about is how do you build and nurture relationships with individuals who want to make a difference, right? And so I can definitely see how important this work is. It's a very, as you mentioned, it's a very specific kind of person in a specific season of life. And they're not always motivated by the things that motivate those of us that maybe are not in a place where we've achieved all the things, right? Where we're still building. And so I'm very interested in what you develop and how that could even be impacting a whole industry, right? The nonprofit industry and how they relate to that kind of individual and how do you cultivate relationship over time. So very, very interested in many ways for many reasons. So talking about courage and daring to do things, and I do love Brene Brown's work around vulnerability and courage and all of that, but I want to know more about you and how you embody that whole pursuit of the bigger mission, because that takes courage. First, to decide that you're going to do the thing, but also to kind of step into the greatness of the calling, and to embrace it and breathe through it, right? So talk to me about that. Talk to me about that level of courage to get things started.
Pinnacle Purpose is the epitome,
Mm.
ultimately, lately, of every ounce of courage that it has taken. It has been a 14-year project in the making. It's been a lifetime in the cultivating, and the last year has been a full on-ramp of excavating beliefs around worthiness, around money, around building
Mm.
personal confidence, around not getting, because this is a six-figure offer for a year, right? And
Mhm.
so, yes, I was raised around affluent people, and to some extent, I feel very comfortable around them. And this is still a new game I'm playing, even though it's in the same, let's say, sport. It's a different level and tier,
Yeah.
and so there is a level of, oh, am I going to be intimidated? Can I really do this? What if I
Mhm.
fall flat on my face? Can I even describe this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm like off the rails, right?
Yeah.
And who do you think you are to be charging that amount of money? Show me your all the things. And so
Right.
I had to work through all of this internally. Now,
Mhm.
I will say that um, I almost feel like, not that I cheated, but I'm designed for purpose. Like I can't
Mhm.
not, like it's almost like it's my oxygen. Without it, I don't function. It
Yeah.
pulls me from within. Now, it doesn't mean that I've known that this idea of me whispering in the ears and being the confidant of leaders that get to potentially impact the lives of millions was a vision I had just as I started out coaching. I didn't even know it was a thing. Hadn't met somebody that did it, but I had this little,
Mhm.
this sense of that. And it was a vision that was from within me. And so I kept it the back of my brain, but I also knew that I had things that I wasn't there yet. I hadn't kind of honed my craft. I didn't understand business. I really didn't understand my unique gift and its specific application towards conscious, established entrepreneurs, and in this case, visionaries making a bigger impact. And so what I did learn is that every level mattered, no matter the financial level of success, because I learned things about myself. I learned both what I liked and what I didn't like, what to do, what not to do, what alignment feels like, what it doesn't feel like, what success means to me, or what I've been willing to sacrifice and what I'm not willing to sacrifice anymore. And so the courage has been there, kind of part of me. And then it was more kind of listening to what's available and what season am I in now? What am I ready for? Like, I knew this was coming sort of about a year ago, but I couldn't, like, I froze. I couldn't even contemplate. I remember the first time I spoke to somebody about this on the phone, because it's been through, really just word of mouth and building my connection, my network. I was shaking. I thought I was going to pee in my pants, This is somebody that I knew, like, my biggest fear is sounding ridiculous, which and the way I compensate is, does everything sound perfect enough? And we all knew that it's all about connection and being honest and real. And I am very honest and real. But if I want somebody to respect me, there's that default of, if I'm professional enough. And so dancing through the old defaults, leaning into, as Brene will say, leaning into the cringy moments where you just want to say, okay, over and out. I'm going to go into robot mode versus I want you to see my heart. Because here's what I've learned already, Francesca, by offering, Pinnacle Purpose and starting to talk about it, is that while being an entrepreneur certainly is a vulnerable experience, stepping into a really much deeper, more authentic expression of your purpose is an incredibly vulnerable, exposing experience, because it's something that is so near and dear to your heart. It is your art.
Yes.
It's your masterpiece. And it hurts what if it doesn't, all the things that can go around that. And so there is a level of exposure personally, deeply, intimately. Like, I'm sharing parts of me that I haven't shared before, how deeply I care, what I really believe in, what I really stand for. And that's like, whoosh. So as I'm going through, my pinnacle purpose is to help others realize theirs. And so I'm going through all the feels and all the experiences, and I'm going to be asking people to go through as well. So that's a long answer to the courage.
Oh, I love it though. I love it. And I have two questions for you. One is, tell me more about the statement you made that every level matters. I completely agree. And I want us to kind of dig into that. And I also want to know, which you kind of alluded to, but if you could be more specific, I want to know, how do you motivate yourself to do hard things? So pick which one you want to answer first. And then I think they're related, but.
Yes, I'll just level. And it wasn't until recently, actually, that I heard another coach talk about this. She equated business seasons and levels like video game levels. And if you ever played Mario Brothers or any kind of video game, or any game that, or even think of karate, right? I don't know if you start with whatever the color is until you get to the black belt. There is a sequence, right? Every level you learn something new, a mastery that will take you and allow you to get to the other level. And so, but because I really made myself wrong, I didn't achieve the level of success or impact or money that I wanted. So there was still a lot of like the baggage of, I wasn't good enough. Who am I really to, am I kidding myself? But when I realized, when she put it like a video game, you start with level 1, and it's only until you get all your gold coins and you bling bling, and then you get to level 2, right? Right. Like, okay, it's just sort of like, it's a science, it's a math, it was not personal. So that really helped me.
Can I just, because you know what it is? I think of, so I'm very visual. So, there's always an image that comes up for me. We tend to think of the process as linear, and it's not necessarily sequential. I think you'll you'll follow me on this one, Priscilla. I think it's a spiral. And I think it starts to move up, right?
Yeah.
But you might find yourself kind of in the same place that you were before, but it's not, because you're somewhere above where you were before. And then you spin around one more time and you're like, oh, but I'm here again. But you're not in the same place.
Yeah.
You cannot be, because you learned a thing, you know more, you did a thing, you're and it's not about age. So if anybody's listening and they're thinking that we're talking, like you have to be older or you have to live enough,
No.
it's not about that. Some people can go through the thing in a day, right? Some people might take them, I don't know, a year. And then others, depending on what you allow yourself to reach, the process can be 14 years. And I don't know where you're going to be in 5 years, but it's not going to be where you are right now. It's just not going to be. And so when we think of every level matters, we have to think of the building blocks. We have to think of like the expansion of who we are and how we end up taking up more space, whatever that means, right? And how everything that we are incorporating into who we are then moves with us. And you move in different directions, right? Like you're doing a kind of a dance with life. It's not a checklist.
No, it's more,
I like checklists.
I do. I think I was talking to my husband, about, how, the spiritual journey of entrepreneurship and the healing that goes on. I think there's an element of both unlearning a lot of the default conditioning that got us to where we were, and also an embracing of the parts of ourselves that we shunned previously. I think it's that dance, and then trying to find what's my voice, what's my expression, who am I? And in my book, I always say, when you know yourself better, you lead better, right? Because you know what where you get tripped up, where you get triggered, or now where maybe you don't anymore, right? You know your edges and you know your strengths, and there's a lot that can be said for that, and that's really useful. And I used to get really upset that I wasn't further sooner, faster. But there was a solidification process, and there was an identity shift happening deep within. And sometimes I've heard some people say it can be a protection to hold you where you are. So because are you really equipped right now, fully, truly, to handle this level if you're here, right? The resilience, the courage, the emotional mastery, the level of craftsmanship, the level of excellence, maybe that's required. And so again, every level is a fortification and amplification of who you are. And there we also go through seasons, right? Seasons of grief, seasons of pivoting, of healing, of different elements that speak to the multi-layered and multifacetedness of who we are as human beings, right? And so that I'm so glad to see that line between life and business has kind of melted away, and people are seeing that we're whole beings, right? Business is a pie of it's a slice of the pie, of the pizza pie. They're not two different pies in my mind.
They're not. They're not. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking of faith and how faith works. Whatever faith, I know what I have faith on, but I'm not imposing that on anyone. The act of faith requires not knowing 3 steps from now. And I think, for example, as an immigrant, as a woman, I started my career in engineering and moving through. Had you told me that I was going to be studying engineering, I would have quit school. Wow. Right? But I had to get to that point where I had to make that decision, and that door opened. I couldn't have opened it, right? So I walked through that, and my life has been forever different because of a decision that I was able to make at a time when I would not have I would not have given myself the opportunity to pursue a technical career, right? And so today, pandemic rolled around, and there I was, looking for a way to turn my charcoal drawing into color painting. And so I started painting, and then I couldn't stop, right? And the courage and I guess this is the point, that the courage it took to take a class in painting and color was all the courage I needed at that time.
Yes.
And if you had told me then, oh, you're going to have a thriving art business, I probably wouldn't have started painting because of all the insecurities. Like, well, I'm not good enough. I don't know what I'm doing. I just, like I don't even know how to manage color. And so a lot of times we put the pressure on ourselves to start at step 10, whatever step that is, right? Again, it's not a checklist, but we want to be, like you were saying, I think it's perhaps human to want to be, like my 17-year-old, she wants to be 21. Well, my 21-year-old is like, I'm 21, I'm getting old. We want the next thing so bad that we don't always take into account how much I need this moment in order to get to the next moment. And faith being the thing that allows us to take that first little step. And when you think about it, it's a collection of little steps. Yes, we do leaps. And I think that there is divine providence in that as well. But we don't bank on the big leaps. We can only bank on the small steps. The big leaps are almost like lucky for those that believe in luck, right? But it's like this lucky thing that happens, and then you're at the right place at the right time, and I just happened to be ready for it, right? But it was the 10 little steps that when that moment came, you were able to make that leap. Anyhow, I'm super excited about what you're saying, because I think it's very relevant to what people experience when they're trying to make decisions about starting something new, right? It's just, yeah.
Yes, and I believe that the underpinning of faith is self-trust, trusting yourself enough, trusting that desire. Oddly enough, I do have an acronym called DARE that I created years ago that speaks to how I think most of us create. But I want to answer your question about having the hard conversations, taking the hard actions. And to be honest, most of the hardest things I've done, I only did them because the pain was so big. I had to do them. I'm not a, oh, yay, I'm going to jump into the fire kind of person. There might be some people out there like, okay, there's a mountain. I'm going to climb the mountain. I'm going to find the next big mountain. They love that challenge. I can not do that much challenge. I'm okay. I'm good. I like my little comfy, cushy. I'm like, I'm a little bit out, but this one, nah. It usually has to hurt and hurt badly for me to change.
I'm going to pause you there. Is it hard because it hurt?
Yes, and because usually when it's hurting is because I can't see past myself, or I can't see the way through, or there's usually been a lot of self-judgment. Why can't I? Why didn't I? How do I? And so because of like, how come everyone else is doing it and how come I can't figure this out? What's wrong with me? So it creates a loop, and that creates pain to where I'm like, okay, I'm the question, I'm the answer, I'm the problem, I'm the solution. So what can I do to change things? And so it's been, yeah, then that requires, okay, well, I know that in order for things to change, I must look at some of the hard patterns, beliefs, feelings. And last year was very much that, especially around money. I had to look at some really hard things, and also, Cinderella syndrome, codependency, the white knight. I really want to be like, Wonder Woman, but I'm okay with the white knight too. Where is he? Where is he? Oh, I mean, look, it's just that I keep it real. And so, I'm the white knight, queen, princess, all the things. And like sometimes they're just hard pills to swallow, but they're also do set us free. And so it's really been a combination of being pulled by the vision and the desire that presents itself. And also when the really hard things come, usually they come because I feel like there's the pain of staying the same way, isn't viable, right? I've hit a wall.
And as we're talking about it, that's what I'm thinking, and that's why I asked you the question. Doing hard things requires courage. We get that, But why is it hard to begin with? Why is that thing? Because like you said, well, so-and-so did it with no problem. For me, it's been weight loss and keeping a healthy body. I have hypothyroidism and I have fibromyalgia. And when you put those two together, it gets difficult. And why is it hard for me? And I get into this whole, it shouldn't be this hard. Well, it's only hard because I expected it to be easier, right? It's hard because I somehow had an expectation or a standard in my mind of how it should be. And it was completely, to your point, in my mind. I asked the question, I am also have the answer. I am the white knight, right? So coming to terms with this is my reality. And perhaps there are things about it I can change. Perhaps there is more energy work and soul work that I can do to release whatever. And you know, we can get into conversations about illness and what those might be. But, oh, here's Chula. She had to say hello.
Hello, Chula.
But I think ultimately things are hard, or we perceive them as hard or more difficult than X because there's an expectation that it shouldn't be this difficult. And that if so-and-so was able to do 1, 2, 3 by year 2, I should, right? There's a bunch of shoulds and coulds and whatevers that taint our perception of ease and flow and whatnot. So that's one thought. The other thought I'm having as well is that sometimes hard is simply, I don't want to. The thing itself is not hard. It's making the decision to do the thing that is hard. And so whether that means that it requires us to change and to learn something new, it's that decision. It's the initial commitment to change. Because then once you start eating healthier, you're like, oh my goodness, I actually feel great. And the food is delicious. And it's so much easier than I thought it was going to be. But that resistance, right? When we're pushing against the thing, that, to your point, creates that pain and that sense of difficulty. And so just thoughts about that.
Can I just add one really quick thing? I know we're going quickly. So I want to say 2 things in terms of the courage, like what prompts, like what's the ignition for the courage? And I think that for me personally, there's an element of fear and also reframing. And so for me, when it comes to fear is, I believe that we ultimately change, that once we flip the fear proposition where what we fear, so let's say weight loss, right? We fear, or let's say something that we really want to do, right? We're afraid of failing. We're afraid of the disappointment, right? Yes. But then let's say we switch that big like limiting fear, right? The one that paralyzes us, which is, oh my God, what if I fail? What if I'm a disappointment? What if I don't know what to do with myself if this fails, right? Like just being with that for a moment. And then all of a sudden, if there's a greater fear that trumps it in a way that actually motivates you, for example, I can be terrified of failing, but I'm much more afraid of regretting never trying. Once the fear, there's a bigger fear that you can attribute to actually having courage and moving forward. That can help. Like you flip the fears so to where the fear of not doing it is greater than, you know, of doing it. And then reframing, like with anything, like I hurt my heel. I have plantar fasciitis in my heel and I have to do some exercises at home, and physical therapy exercises in general are just boring as shit. But I reframed
yes, they are.
And I had to stop going to hot yoga. And I was, but then my PT guy said, well, Priscilla, this is yoga. You're getting to do yoga at home, which is true, really. Like child's pose is child's pose, right? But that simple shift in how my perspective on it, I was like, oh, and I'm going to feel strong and I'm going to feel good. And, you know, it's always a desired feeling, like Daniela Port says, right? There's always a core desired feeling. But if we really connect to the feeling of what we're going to get from the activity, it can really make a difference. And so now I've been actually doing my physical therapy at home much more frequently, and actually more enjoying it more, because I framed it differently. I put a different, frame on it.
Yeah.
And so I think that, that can be part of how do we work with courage? How do we dance with fear? So that it doesn't stop us, right? We take the reins back. So those are my two thoughts.
Yeah. And I actually have a free self-paced course that it's about reframing to bring more courage into your life and learning to overcome the paralysis of fear. I don't like saying that we can be fearless. I think fear plays a role.
Yes.
And it's a healthy role. It's the reason why we don't walk into traffic or jump off of buildings.
Yay.
Yes, yay. So fearlessness is not the goal. The goal is courage, is to be able to do the thing even when you're scared and taking that calculated risk. So yeah, reframing is super powerful. So tell me then, we do the hard thing, we start. And then starting is courageous in and of itself. But how do you keep going when you want to quit?
I think that this is where really knowing yourself matters.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know what do you need to stay on track? Is it accountability? Is it a friend? Is it to be surrounded by other people that are also doing things so that keeps you focused? Is it having a mantra? Is it like, what do you need to succeed? And that starts with also embracing, like you said, understanding the context that anytime you start something, it's going to be like this. So just expect it, right? Not that you plan, that's what you're hoped for, but you expect it. And so I'm going to just throw this out for you. Like my DARE acronym is desire. What do you really want?
Yes.
A is for alignment. What are the best choices for you to make on those baby steps to move you in the direction of that desire? And then R is for resilience, which is what we're talking about now. Hard times, setbacks, shit's going to go down, life's going to happen. How do you stay the course? And then E is for embodiment. And so resilience is, okay, what do I need to stay strong for myself? Right. And that means I need to have a friend. I need to have a buddy. I need to have a feeling that I connect to. I need to remind myself of why this matters to me. I need to do things that make me feel good. I need to know what are my go-tos when is it wine? Is it going for a run? Is it going for girls out? Is it, having a hobby? Like, what do I need to be able to navigate the ups and downs? And also, what are your pitfalls? Where do you tend to derail yourself? I'm a victim. Oh, poor me. This is never going to work. That's mine. Oh, it's never going to work. I'm this, it didn't work before. Why is it going to work now? Understanding your loops, your stories, and your patterns so you can get yourself out of it sooner rather than later. I think that really speaks to that. And then I have to come back every day. Why am I doing this? Why does this matter to me? How is this going to improve my quality of life? How is this going to improve the quality of life for other people? And so it's a constant reminder until, who you're being and this new version of you becomes an embodied new reality. It's just a natural part of who you are over time. And so I think that speaks to it.
I think as we have this conversation, I think, Priscilla, that with every iteration of every season, we leave something behind.
We do.
And that can be painful, depending on what it is that we're leaving behind. And there is a way in which we get attached that when a baby and a binky, the baby needs that pacifier because it's soothing. But it's not as cool to be a third grader with a binky. So sometimes even social pressure, like it's not cool anymore. I can't do that thing anymore. And now I'm in a moment of stress and I want to regress. I want to go back to the thing that gave me that comfort. And so, for people listening, I think it's important for us to, like you're saying, know ourselves enough to say, okay, do I just need a nap? Or do I really need to quit? Like, can I quit for 2 hours? Right? Can I quit for 2 hours and then pick it up again? And that 2 hour window, that 3 days, whatever it is that you might need, it could be that you are just tired and you simply need rest. It could be that you need more protein, you need to walk more. It could be simple biology, is what I'm saying. In some cases, it can be realignment. It could be, I went too far left and I need to kind of correct course and get back to center a little bit more. And you need time for perspective. And so what I want people to hear is that you have to listen to the desire to quit. If you muster through it, you might end up in a place that you don't want to be. And so it is important to slow down for that moment, reevaluate. Do you need a glass of wine? Do you need to hang out with a friend? Do you need to just be on Facebook for 3 hours and not feel guilty about scrolling endlessly? It's okay. It's okay to quit for a day. It's just not okay to quit indefinitely, because what you're giving up on, and this is where the unification of business and soul, right? If you give up on purpose, it's you're giving up on. It's all of you. And so it's not going to be, in the long run, is not going to feel better. You'll get rest today, but you didn't have to quit to do that thing, right? To give yourself what you needed. Part of what you need is to hold yourself to that purpose, to that high goal, to that expanding vision that you were talking about earlier. That is part of what makes us feel good about who we are, and finding a reason to be alive in this planet when the world is on fire right now. So if you don't have that, you're actually going to get lost even faster, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, for me, quitting is, I think of it more as pauses, as breathing room, because I can't imagine not doing what I'm doing. Of course, sometimes life happens and things have to adjust, but and that's where, like you said, daily or weekly check-ins with ourselves, audits, recalibrations. And there are some weeks, like I remember the week of 4th of July, everyone was kind of in summer vacation mode, or there have been weeks where when my heel was really hurting. I just it's going to be a light week, more of a surrendered week. It's not going to be a week of more activity, because it's just, I think, learning to listen to energy and to the flow of what's present, I think, is a dance. Because for me, I need to stay on point, but I also need to honor what's present in the moment. Some people can just plow through, and maybe that's their design or human design. No, it doesn't work for me well. And so it goes back to all of this comes down to working with yourself, as you said, versus working against yourself. And there's a huge, huge, huge wisdom in knowing ourselves well, and giving ourselves grace. And I've had to give myself tons of grace the last week. I'm like, what am I doing? Can I do this properly? Can I not? Is this ever going to work? I just know, okay, that's going to come up, and there are going to be days when I'm going to have ice cream, and that's going to be okay. Keep going, though. You gotta keep going.
Yeah. We are in the middle of a sudden rainstorm here in Florida. And so if things freeze or the sound is not perfect, apologies, everyone.
I'm hearing you good. The image got a little bit blurry, but I've been hearing you all along. So.
Okay, fantastic. So now, given all that we have been talking about, right? Why is having your own business appealing? Because the work that we do, we could do in different ways, right? But why as an entrepreneur?
Short end, I don't like to be told what to do. Just that. I was just telling somebody this morning, I'm like, you know what? I really don't like to be bossed around. I like to be the boss. And it's really, I think I told you, it's freedom and impact. I like to be the person deciding how I'm going to spend my time and how I spend my days, and who I'm spending it with and where. And I feel like through the vehicle of business, there's really an unlimited space for both income and impact. Pinnacle
Mhm.
Purpose is a program that is going to be very financially lucrative for me, and also will create ripple effects that I hope I never even get to understand and fully integrate in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And it comes back to your values, and the container. Is the container for some people working at an organization, it's great because they just go in, they don't have to build anything, they don't want to have to deal with all the things. They go in, they work in their zone of genius, they have their team, they do their thing, they have all the resources already, like they plug and play, right? And that's
Yeah.
perfect for them. They have all the perks, fabulous. For others, sort of like being an entrepreneur, right, or entrepreneur in residence. For others, they're like, I don't care how great that is. I want it to be all me. And I don't want to, report to anyone. I don't want to have to deal with any corporate BS or whatever. And sometimes it's a combination, who knows? But
Yeah.
I think again, you have to be radically honest about what season you're in, what your needs are. And it goes back to your values, right? Freedom and growth are critical. Like they're oxygen for me.
Mhm.
And flexibility, I always tell people, is my number one value. So being in any place that's too rigid or too confining or too whatever isn't going to work for me. And so that's and I had no idea,
Yeah.
Francesca, that that was the truth. I never imagined I would be an entrepreneur ever.
Yeah. So this conversation is reminding me of a book. I'm gonna look it up and uh, tell you the title because I absolutely love the book. It might seem unrelated, but it's called The Dawn of Everything. And it is a book written by anthropologists. They were studying the human need for equality and why is equality such a big topic for us at sharing this planet at this point in time. When did people decide that equality was important? And so they started with that question, and as they were unraveling the question and kind of pulling the thread, they're like, well, when did we even decide that equality was something we needed to restore? Does that mean that there is some sort of innate belief that we were equal before at some point? And in that studying, they looked at the Enlightenment and the French Revolution and how a lot of those ideas actually have a root in Native American tradition. And so we think of, I know I'm digressing, but I'm coming back. And so they talk about how we have been taught history in a way that presents Europe coming into the Americas and teaching the Americas things. Whereas the process was actually a two-way street. And a lot of conversations, they were not children. The Native American communities and nations were not just a bunch of infantile, nor were they like these super esoteric beings that you couldn't connect with. They were human beings, just like you and I, who also had social structures and political structures and economic structures and had a lot to say and critique about the structures in Europe at the time. So in this exchange of ideas, some of those ideas get back to Europe that promote freedom, and the French Revolution happens and the Enlightenment, so it's really the coming together of all these things. All that to say that in the research, what they have found is that equality was not really the goal, but rather freedom. And that in Native American traditions, freedom is much more valued than equality. Equality is not really pursued as a goal. And I think that that's so powerful because if you have freedom, if we're all free and have that flexibility to co-create the future that we want, to live life today in a way that is pleasing, I think that the idea of equality almost falls to the wayside. I don't need to be equal to anybody. I just want to be free to be me. I want to be free to live life on my terms. And I want to be able to contribute to the world I live in the way that I am uniquely positioned to do, or designed or created to do. And so the power of freedom, if you ask me, I think everyone should have a side hustle. And perhaps it'll become a big thing. I don't know. I don't know. But there's tax benefits, like there's technical reasons why that is good for people to do. But I think there's also something fundamentally true about the human experience that has to do with that freedom, the pursuit of something that is uniquely you, your gift to the world. And when we are able to operate, even if only little bits of time at a time in that space, it's just the joy that comes from that, is, to me, is unparalleled. And I am an artist and I paint, but it's all about joy for me. The pursuit of joy, the sharing of joy, the celebration of the little things or the big things that bring us that joy, you know? Okay, that was my little long story about why freedom is so important, and how I totally understand where you're coming from when you talk about that flexibility and that freedom, as an entrepreneur. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think we have one more question, maybe. Let's see. Yes, what is your next big goal?
Well, my goal is to talk about baby steps. The next goal is to enroll the first person into Pinnacle Purpose. That will be a milestone,
Okay.
as my colleague says, the domino moment where the first
Yes.
domino falls. And I was like,
Mhm.
this is such a beautiful image, because my brain was like, God, what if it's a fluke? Like, what if it
Yeah.
never happens again, right? And he was like, no, it's a domino. It's just, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it's a great image for all of us, right? Like the first one is just the one of many.
Yes.
And then the next milestone is 3, and then maybe up to 5 total
Okay.
in the program. And then there's more elements to the Soul Fluent brand and Soul Fluent leadership. There are more books that have been channeled that need to be put out for, there's the Pinnacle Purpose for the visionaries who are here to make that their gift to humanity is to change the game for humanity. That's the level of ripple. However, in the Soul Fluent leadership work, leadership is defined as contribution, which means, talk about equality. We all are leaders. We all are contributing. It's not about the size, it's about the quality, it's about the authenticity of the expression, right? And so there's more books, there's Oracle card, there's I'd love to be speaking about whatever it is that I'm meant to be speaking about that I'm not sure about yet. And so there's both Pinnacle Purpose aspect of the work, and then there is the other stuff that's more for more people to access. And the next right purposeful goal is the first domino inside to crack open Pinnacle Purpose.
And I love the imagery, because there is I see it as a floodgates, right? So it's, you crack the thing, or it's like when you're giving birth and your water breaks, there's no turning back. It's just coming.
It's coming. Oh dear.
It's just going to come. And so the domino effect is a great image for that. It's the one step that unfolds the full manifestation. You don't know. I mean, it's hard sometimes to put a name on things, because you don't know how it's all going to unfold. And it doesn't even matter. You just
Yes, you just take that step, right? And as I was commenting before we spoke about your painting, of all your beautiful paintings, that was my favorite that you happen to be sitting in front of, because I don't want any of us to lose that sense of childhood wonder about life, about being human, about humanity, about the world and what's possible. I think that we just have begun to scratch the surface of what we're truly capable of in terms of the goodness of humanity. And I believe that there's so much more that unites us than divides us. And that the more we can see ourselves as a is a key piece of the puzzle of the collective consciousness, and we trust that and honor that and see each person and respect each person's role, we can live more as a harmonious society versus a polarized one. And so my vision is for a more humane world for everyone, a world where everyone knows that they matter and that they have a role to play if they choose free will in doing that, and that we keep that sense of childhood wonder and magic alive, because why not? Talk about joy, you know?
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's dignity and ensuring that everyone can live with dignity, that everyone finds it in themselves and that they respect themselves enough to live with that dignity, which then leads to that joy, and it's contagious.
It
Sure
is.
is. Yeah.
It is.
Priscilla, this has been fabulous. Thank you so, so much
You're welcome.
for your time. This is just, for me, the domino, right? This is my
Yes, it is
first
the first.
domino.
Oh, I got
Yes.
chills on that one.
Yes. So thank you for being my first domino. And I hope that this is the unlocking and the unfolding of something impactful and beautiful that brings joy and dignity to many, many, many people.
And magic and wonder and endless beautiful possibilities.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now I gotta find a way to stop the recording. I think it's up here.